Hello all. So with the release of Rig Creator 2.0, which brings in some new features and kind of finishes that feature to what I consider a decent level, I thought it was now time for us to just go over some of the features and kind of how-to of the Rig Creator. So firstly, there are two ways of getting to Rig Creator. You can either go to the Rig Creator drop-down, the nav bar, and click on Create and View Rigs, or you can also go to your account settings and to Rig Creator. Either one will bring you to this page. As you can see here are two rigs that I've previously put onto the site. And what we're going to do is, for those who haven't used it before or are unsure, we're just going to do a test rig. So, for instance, when you want to create a rig, you click on the Create Rig button. Then you have your form. So you give your rig a title, so we can just put in test rig, for instance, and then you pop in here, so you got your component list and your product info. So for your components list, we have a big drop down, and you can select from all sorts of components that you wish to fill out the profile with. So we'll just start with CPU, it's just a starting point. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and put in the actual product names. This is just a for example, but obviously you'd put in the proper product info. So we'll just put in Ryzen for the CPU, and then we can click Add, and this will allow us to add a second component, and obviously so on and so forth for the rest. So we want to put in motherboard next, for instance. So I'm just going to put in Mobo, and then for RAM, we'll just put in RAM. So you can have as many components as you want in each rig profile, so virtually unlimited within reason. Next down you have the rig price. So you're going to want to put your currency type in, and then obviously the value of the rig. Moving down we have the drop down, so you can say whether this is an owned rig that you own now, or if you're kind of speccing out a future build that you're going to build sometime down the line. You can do this for basically speccing out a rig and showing them to people and saying, you know, is this a good idea? Can I improve on this? Is it a bad idea and you should just forget it? But the choice is yours. So for now, we're just going to change this to owned. So we've got two text fields here. So we've got overclock info and we've got other info. So in this field here, you can pop in details relating to your overclock settings, you know, timings, voltages, speeds, you name it, you can pop it in here. With other info, it may be nothing to do with overclocking, but something to do with the rig that you thought you might want to mention, you can pop that in this section here. And then moving on down, you have the rig thumbnail. So you just choose a picture of your rig. So for instance, I'm just going to choose one of my small Plex server. There we go. And then down here we have show rig in signature little toggle. So in the signature area of your posts, you can show up to 3 rig profiles. Now if this is a rig that you're wanting to show in your rig profile, and you know that's going to be the case, you can simply switch that on. If it's not, you can switch it off. But in this case, as this will be my third rig and I want to show it, I'll leave it on. So the rig album we will cycle back to in a moment, as this will relate to creating what is basically an album of all your rig images that you can link to this rig profile. So for now, we'll go back to that in a minute, but for now we'll click save. And there we are. So this is the test rig. Obviously, as we only put in the 3 components, only 3 components will show. Now if you want to edit the rig, you can click on the little pencil icon here, which will simply reopen the form that you had before, and you can go ahead and change and add things as you see fit. So we'll add a PSU, for instance, and save. And as you see, the PSU will now appear. You can also delete the rig using the trash can button. And we've also got an easy toggle feature here, which is used to basically hide or show a system within your rig signature. So let's just move on to that now. So I'm going to go to a post of mine so you can see my 3 rigs. So we go down here, and so here we are. So here's the 3 rig profiles here. So we have the worker, Plex server, and the test rig. So say for instance I want to hide the test rig. Well, we go back and we can simply click on this here, the little eye, and then if we go back and refresh, you'll see that now only 2 rigs are showing. So what we'll do is we're now going to go back to our rig creator, and we're just going to have that shown again, as I want all 3 rigs showing in this instance. So moving on, we have the rig creator gallery. So in the rig creator gallery, it sounds exactly as it is. In here you can create an album of your rig and then link it to the rig profile that you made, and I'll show you why that's interesting, because you'll notice that in the rig creator you can only upload 1 thumbnail, but this feature will allow you to upload a ton of images on your rig, because let's face it, you know, 1 picture isn't always enough, and yeah, we like detailed shots and, you know, variable shots and all sorts. So moving on, what we'll do, so we're going to add images, and we're going to create a new album. Now it's probably best if you create the album, keep its name to the rig profile name. You don't have to, but it might make your life easier knowing what album belongs to which rig. So we created test rig here, and we gave it that name. So we'll go ahead and just call this test rig here. Then or should we say test rig as opposed to test rug? And create album. And this is the point where you get to upload your images. So we're just going to, again, for ease sake, we're just going to upload this 1 image here. As I say, you can have multiple, but we'll just do the 1 for now. And then you click submit all images. So there we go. So we have the test rig album with our 1 image for now, but as I say, you can have as many as you want in here. So what we'll do now is we're going to link the 2, and I'll show you why this is going to be a useful feature. So we're now going to go back to our rig creator, and then we're going to edit our test rig. Now if we scroll down the form, you remember we skipped this step which just says rig album. Now that we've created a rig album for the test rig, we can now use this little drop down, and you'll get a list of all the albums that you have created on the site to date. Now obviously we want the test rig album, so we're going to link the rig profile here to the test rig album, and then we're going to click save. Now what that means is when you or a visitor wishes to do a rig search or visit your profile and look at your rigs, they've got a much more in-depth view of your rig because of all the images in your gallery. So we're on the rig creator search, and what a user can do, or yourself, is on the full rig info button, this will load you into your profile where your rigs are stored, but below, rather than just a thumbnail which is here, you can have a ton of images here which yourself and other users can view. So basically all that is doing is linking an album in the gallery under Rig Creator to your rig. And I think that's a fairly neat feature because lots of us have lots of images, and this was the kind of easiest way to do that and link it with our rigs, because unfortunately any form of automation during the rig creation process was quite difficult, so this was kind of the workaround. So hopefully now this gives you an insight as to why we'll be using the rig creator gallery and then linking it to our rig profiles, and why this could be useful. So next what we're going to take a look at is the rig downloads feature. So within our rig creator, so we'll just go back to our rig creator here, and you'll notice here under rig settings you've got a drop down which gives you 3 different options. You've got the option to hide all rigs in desktop. So what this basically does is, so we've got the kind of rigs in the signature area of the post here. What that will do is, for the desktop, we'll hide them so they don't show up anymore. Now this feature can be toggled on and off as you see fit, whether you want them to show or not. Again, we have an independent setting which allows you to show all the rigs in the mobile version of the site. By default we have them hidden because it increases the amount of scrolling. It can be a bit of a pain, but if you want to turn it on, that option is there for you under rig settings. And then finally we have rigs download. So essentially what this is when you click on it, what it will do is it will download all your rig information, so all your components that you've spec'd out, your overclock information, your other information, and will pop them into a CSV. What's also useful is it will also package up all the images that you've put onto the gallery section of Rig Creator and pop them in folders for you. Again, another reason why it's kind of important to link up your rig gallery with your rig profile. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to do a rigs download. So we're just going to put that under my downloads, and by default the file name is my rigs, but you can change it to whatever you want. So we're going to click save, and there we go, it's downloaded. We're going to open up my rigs, and so because I've got 3 albums in Rig Creator Gallery linked to 3 of my rig profiles, we'll now have, as such, 3 rigs folders here, and these will have the associated images that were uploaded to the site. So this is a great way of sort of kind of downloading information, backing up your information if you wish. And again, we can see the image is downloaded. And then importantly, we've got the rigs data CSV. So if we open up this, so at the moment looks like a bit of a mess. That's just kind of the nature of the CSV, but once you have stretched everything out, it starts to become nice and obvious. So essentially what this is, the CSV, it's just the collection of the data that you've input onto the site. So as you can see here, we've got rig title, component type, product, price, status, overclock info, and other info. And then moving down, we've got the names of the rigs, as well as the associated components that we've input. So this should hopefully serve as I say, a nice sort of way of backing up your rigs and information for your own needs and wants, or for sending to someone, you name it, it's there. And plus the other useful thing is, say for instance you've been putting in all your overclock information on the site and maybe you forgot to make note of it elsewhere. we can now have a nice record of it. As you can see here, I've got my overclock information, and yeah, we can use that to kind of back up what we've put in onto the site. So coming out of that, that is almost everything to go over for Rig Creator. The one thing I did just want to show was that you can, on your posts, underneath every kind of Rig Creator signature, you have this little hide and show rigs toggle. So if you want to do this on the fly without having to go into the actual Rig Creator menu, you can just click on this little drop down, and again you've got the quick option to hide all rigs in desktop or show all rigs in mobile. So that's it. That's basically everything with respects to the main important parts of Rig Creator. The only other thing to mention is you have the ability to share your rigs within your signature, so you can click share, and you've got the options of Facebook, Twitter, and email. You've also got more sharing options here if you click on it, and you'll get a dialog box up and give you some additional options if you wish. Again, you can view your full rig info by just clicking this button on any given rig that you happen to have highlighted. This is also visible for all other users. So say for instance I want to see all the components listed for my Plex server, because by default only 8 will show in the signature area, and that was just basically because we didn't want the rig signatures kind of overtaking the entire page. So now if we click full rig info, that will now take me to that rig, and obviously gives me all the information about that rig that's been input by myself. So that's it. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this feature. From time to time we'll make tweaks and improvements moving forward. And yeah, if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to bring them up. Alright, well, enjoy.